Good evening and welcome to this Akron Public School Board meeting of the Instructional Policy and Student Achievement Committee on this Tuesday, September the 2nd, 2025. Thank you for joining us here. I'm Diana Autry, Chair. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues, Pastor Harrison and President Dr. Jackson, as well as Superintendent Outley and Marcy E. Bright. First item on the agenda is our meeting minutes from our last meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or comments on those meeting minutes? Seeing none, we will accept them as presented to us. I don't believe there are any requests to address the committee at this time. So we will move on in our agenda. First discussion topic under student achievement. I will turn it over to Marcy E. Bright at this time.
Thank you, Chair Autry. We have several discussion topics tonight. For student achievement, we have a science department recognition as well as a report card presentation. We have a College and Career Academy deeper dive, questions and answers, as well as a presentation. And it looks like a topic for public content under business affairs. We're going to start with Ms. Katrina Halassa with a science department recognition.
Tonight, Dr. Halassa, Science Learning Specialist, will share information regarding the recognition of our APS Science Department is receiving the Governor's Thomas Edison Awards for Excellence in Student Research and STEM Education. At the conclusion of this presentation, the committee should be prepared to receive formal recognition from the Ohio Academy of Science at our regular board meeting.
Thank you, Chair Diana Autry and board members Dr. Carla Jackson and Reverend Gregory Harrison, Superintendent Otley, and Marcy E. Bright for today. I want to explain that the Thomas Edison Award was established in 1985 by Governor Richard Celeste. We are recognizing teachers across the district who have done some kind of scientific work in their class and had kids present to science fairs, as well as activities that are STEM related beyond the traditional classroom activities. What I would like to say is there are three criteria, and the first one is you have to have a local or conduct a local science fair with 12 or more students. This is all 7th grade students. This is how we do it in Akron Public Schools. They present their projects, about 1,500 of them throughout the beginning of the first fall. There are requirements in some of our high school science courses. Maybe over 200 students have that experience. We had a summer research internship with the University of Akron, and we had over 45 students that participated in authentic research with university professors. We have 5th grade teachers in the elementary school recruited 6 or more students, which equivalent to 158 students participated this past year. And 194 scholars participated in last year's January the 25th, 2025 69th APS STEM Expo. And we have 66 superiors, 90 were excellent, and 38 were good. One requirement that was removed as a barrier is that you no longer have to receive a superior at your local in order to participate in regional, which is the next step. And so you have to have students that from a local 2 or more. So if we have a local fair, we can just submit 2 of them. But if you do not have a local fair, you need to submit 6 students or more to participate in the 2025 Regional Science Day. So we had over 304 scholars participate in either the Regional Science Day at Kent State University or the virtual one at the 18th District. The total was 91 superiors, 210 excellent, and 3 good. Now, at this stage, 91 superiors are eligible to participate in state. So we sent 90 scholars to participate in state. 27 of them received a superior, and 64 received an excellent. Now, the third criteria is that you have to do something beyond the classroom. And of course, we have amazing partners throughout our district. We have, obviously, community partners like the zoo or building competition among our students. We also have solar cars that happen. Around 1,600 students participated in that. We have Best Medicine. And you could see these partnerships either came from the ones that we've already established or through CCA, or gifted and talented, or K through 12 teachers as well. As you can see, we had 196 total awards up to 2025. 3,473 teachers have been recognized up till this fall of 2025. We'd like to give a special thanks, I think it's coming there, to the following individual entities that occur here in the Akron Public Schools. We want to thank the fifth graders who recommended or actually worked directly with our fifth grade teachers. Again, our fifth grade scholars, that was 158 students that were representing all our elementary schools. Our science team coached either fifth grade scholars or made sure that they were registered for 304. They compiled all the paperwork that was necessary from even the 1,500 seventh graders to make sure that we had that information ahead of time in order to register them if they wanted to move forward. We love the OSI coaches who helped us with this application. The CCA for all their STEM-related essential experiences, discovery challenges, engagement challenges, change maker challenges, and work-based learning. A lot of challenges, as you can see. And then OSI for who paid the $30 fee for the students to participate in regional, because it's not free, and $60 for every student who participated in state. What we're so thankful for is that we are able to recognize every school in Akron Public Schools. Every single school is being recognized. All the elementary, all the middle, and all the high school. That has never happened in the history of this Governor's Award. And I want to send a special thanks to Marianne Permuick, who was my coach this past year. When I pitched this idea, she's like, of course we're going to make it happen. Had no idea what I was asking her to do until November. She's like, Katrina, is this going to really happen? I'm like, of course it's going to happen. And together with the team that we had, we were able to make this happen today. To be able to recognize on the official board meeting, but it had the press release was just released, and in every language that we have in our department, I think it says, Dr. Wynn, would you say it's 46 languages? 49 languages. I would love to put them all there to say thank you to everyone who's participated and for your time today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Halassa, to you, your department, all involved. You continue to set a standard of excellence for our students. We appreciate you. Nobody clapped when she said every school was represented. I think that is definitely worth. Thank you so much. Any questions from the board, committee? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Halassa. And next, we'll have our report card presentation.
Good evening, Chair Diana Autry.
I'll let Ms. Autry introduce.
Oh, okay.
So this represents our annual first look of the district data, which is organized in 6 key indicators: achievement, gap closing, progress, early literacy, graduation, and new for this year, college, career, workforce, and military readiness. Please note these results tonight are preliminary. The state of Ohio will release the official report card on September the 15th. Historically, adjustments between the initial and official numbers have been minor. At this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Lash. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try it again. Good evening, Chair Diana Autry, Members Hall, Dr. Jackson, and Reverend Harrison, and Superintendent Outley, and Ms. E. Bright. All right, we are here to share, as was stated, our preliminary results of the 2025 state report card. Several of us will be sharing key findings, providing a comprehensive overview of our report card. And it's important to note that this data does speak to our mission and our vision, where we are committed to ensuring all of our scholars are college, career, and life ready, and our vision that each of our scholars will graduate as architects of their future. And as you know, with our strategic plan and our 4 cornerstones, again, this work does relate and connect to each of our cornerstones, but tonight, primarily, we are speaking in the direction of Cornerstone 2, academic achievement. And so our objectives, in addition to sharing the preliminary data, we do want to pause and take a moment for celebrations, as well as look at our opportunities for growth. And particularly as it relates to this presentation with this committee, making sure that we answer any questions that you would have need of clarification on, and also looking at the information that you'd like to be shared at the full board meeting. And so with that, let's get into the report card. So what does the Ohio report card measure? It's important to know that this is a comprehensive measure of the district performance as it relates to 6 particular areas. So we will take a look at achievement, gap closing, progress, early literacy, graduation rate, and as was stated, the newly rated college, career, workforce, and military readiness. Now, each of the components receives a star rating from 1 to 5. And this slide lets you know how each of them are rated in the overall district rating. And you can see that achievement and progress are weighted more heavily towards that overall determination. And the overall rating scale, 3 stars, means that we meet state standards. Anything above that would indicate that we are exceeding, and anything below 3 stars would indicate that we need support. It's also important to note that while each component is rated with a star rating, that the overall rating a school or district would receive can be in the form of a half star. So 1, 1.5, 2.5, and so on. And we are right out of the gate happy to indicate that, again, this is preliminary, but we have moved from 2.5 stars last year to 3 stars. And again, on that previous, on that previous slide, 3 stars means meets state standards. And so at this time, you can see in each of the components, we will go into each of them. And starting with achievement, I'm going to kick it off to Dr. Nguyen to lead us through achievement.
Thank you, Dr. Lash. Good evening to our board and Ms. Utley Kelly. So I'm really excited to share with you our achievement data today. So the achievement component measures how well our students performed on the OST test, the Ohio State's test. So each level of proficiency is weighted differently. So if a student receives a proficient rating, they score 1 point. If they received a basic rating on their proficiency test, they receive 0.6. So each level of proficiency is rated differently. So the state calculates the total number of points from all students tested from grades 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, ELA 2, Algebra 1, Geometry, U.S. History, Government, and U.S. History. So they total up the points, and then we get a total points of for the performance index divided by the total number of points that they can earn, multiplied by 100, we get the performance index. So if you look here, our performance index score has been steady the past 4 years. Starting in 21 to 22, we had a performance index of 58.7, and we have moved up to 65.8 in the 24-25 school year. So we made over 2.5 point increase from last year to this year. If you look at the component rating scale, so currently with 65.8, that's how we earned an achievement, 2 stars for the achievement component. So on the bar graph, you could see another visual representation of our steady increase in the performance index. In this next slide, you can see the steady increase, but we're looking back at pre-COVID. If you look at 2017, 2018, our performance index was 67. So we are getting closer back to where we were in 2007-18. Currently, this year, as I shared, we are at 65.8. So at this time, I'm going to share with you where we're at with ELA, and then my colleagues will come forward and share with you each of their content areas. So for ELA here, you can see this is a table that lists all the results for ELA in each cluster. On the last 2 columns, you can see in the pink, that's the district average, and then the last column is the state average. So are we where we need to be for ELA? We're not where we want to be, but we are making progress. So there are some celebrations for ELA. In grades 6 to 8 and ELA 2 showed an increase in the percentage of students scoring proficient or higher compared to last year. If you look at the table, you have, I think you have a copy of that, 3 clusters outperformed the district average in the percentage of scoring proficiency in grades 3 and 4. We have 2 clusters that exceeded the state average in 3rd grade and surpassed the district average in grades 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and ELA 2. Of the 2 clusters, 1 outperformed the district average in all tested grades 3 through 8 and ELA 2. So we've made some great gains in secondary, but we've also made gains when we compare to the state average and the district average. So that's the results for ELA. This time I'm going to ask my colleague Nicole to kind of share with you the math results.
Good evening, board members, Ms. Ebright and Mrs. Outley. As Dr. Nguyen explained, this is a chart that goes through each cluster and their proficiency performance compared to the district and the state. So you can look at each grade level and see how each cluster performed compared to the district and also compared to the state. We have a lot of celebrations in math that we're really proud of this year, but we had to narrow it down to 3 bullets for you. So we did see a significant growth in all of our grades except for grade 5, which is really impressive. Grade 5 has been a sticking point across the state for a few years, so we know we're digging into that a lot deeper. We have a cohort of teachers working around a plan to target that. So that piece is in motion. But geometry demonstrated a 13% point growth, and Algebra 1 demonstrated a 10% point growth. But algebra has increased 23% over the last 2 years, which is really, really good for us, so we're proud of that. We also have clusters that exceeded the district and the state average that we're proud of. The data is also showing you 2 consistent years of strong improvement across math, of course with that exception of 5th grade. And at this time, I'm going to have Dr. Halassa come up and talk to you about science.
Thank you, Ms. Nicole Vitale. As you can take a look at the science proficiency data across here, one thing I want to explain that's a huge celebration for us is that when you usually adopt a new adoption, usually the scores go down, not go up. And actually this year, we had all 3 areas of testing go up this year. The 5th grade district scores exceeded the 2019 scores that were pre-COVID. We have risen 8% over the last 3 years, and the biology scores raised 7.1 from the last year, this past year. So we're excited about the movement that we're having in science. And now I would like Adam Motter to come up.
Thank you, Dr. Halassa. Good afternoon, everybody. We can take a quick peek at our social studies scores. You can see there's only the two tests, American government and U.S. history. U.S. government went up 8.6, U.S. history a solid 8% just from the previous year. But another celebration to point out is if you look at our 2-year trend, U.S. history scores have gone up almost 12%. American government's gone up almost 18% in the last 2 years. So good news for us in social studies. This next slide is the non-boundary schools. That's what we're calling this. And we know this as our specialty schools. But we pulled these out because they didn't fit in terms of the data as we presented to you from the cluster assignments. So you can see here on this one looks a little different because as you can see, it has all the ELA, all the math, all the science, all the social studies for our specialty, or in this case, we're calling it our non-boundary schools. And there were many celebrations in these schools as well. Our non-boundary schools exceeded the state average in proficiency for ELA 2, geometry, algebra 1, biology, U.S. history, and American government. They outperformed the district average in grades 4 through 10 for math and ELA, U.S. history, government, and science. And if you look at this last bullet, AAA and Akron Early College posted the greatest gains in the entire district just for the American government OST. And look at those percentage gains. Very, very incredible. At this time, I'd like to turn it back over to Dr. Lash so we can look at one of the next indicator, which is gap closing.
Madam President.
Do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Can we name the non-boundary schools?
Yeah, we're going to make sure we get this right.
So think of those as the schools that have an application to get in or a program. So it's STEM Middle, STEM High, I Promise, Bridges, Akron Early College, APS Online, and AAA. Miller South. Takes a team.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Motter. So that was the achievement component, and so we'll quickly now take a look at the gap closing component. And this component focuses on identifying and addressing achievement gaps among various student groups. And our preliminary rating is 3 stars for 34%. And this next slide will delve a little bit deeper into this gap closing to show you what the actual measures are. And so within this component, we take a look at chronic absenteeism, gifted performance, our English language learners, graduation factors into here, as well as English language arts and math, which you just heard, and not only the achievement, but progress as well. And it should be noted that the highlighted areas that you see in this slide indicate we have not received that data yet. Progress is usually the component which you'll hear in just a moment is the component that takes a little bit longer for that calculation, and so we don't have it yet. But of the points that we've earned thus far and our possible points of what we've earned is what got us to the 34% and therefore the 3 stars. And so when we look at some celebrations here, just like we've reported over the last couple of years, chronic absenteeism is an area that we have gained all of our points, our 5 points. Gifted identification and services, we earned all the points there. And for the graduation indicator, we've earned 6 of the 9 possible points. And you can see in the student groups that are listed there where we were able to exceed the goal and thus earn the points there. And now I'll turn it over to Mr. Keith Lichty-Clifford to talk through progress component.
Thank you, Dr. Lash. Good evening, board members and Superintendent Otley. This is an easy one because the data is not all in yet, but just to give you a little background, if achievement is that snapshot of where students are right now looking at grade level standards. Progress is the component that measures growth, so how kids grow from one year to the next. So this is actually a statistical analysis from SAS where it looks at all the state testing and rolls that up into how closely did I come to where I was predicted to perform. And so I think of it like a race. So kids start at all different places at the starting lineup. And if you move ahead in your place in line, then you're making gains or more than a year's growth. So our story in Akron is we've been holding steady at 2 stars for the last 3 years. This is also a roll-up. So if we look at that last column, progress for 24-25, we don't have stars yet, but 50% of that rating is going to come from this year's value added, calculated soon, and then 25% of that will come from last year's value added, and then 25% from the 22-23 school year. The silver lining is we did a great job last year. We had 3 stars in our 1-year measure, so we met the state expectations. So, fingers crossed, if we get another 3 or 4 stars in progress, combined with last year's rating, we might be able to see that one go up, and so we'll report on that one soon. So the 4th measure is early literacy, and I asked Dr. Nguyen to join me up here. So this measure measures how our progress in our K-3 literacy programs. And so we've made steady gains the 3 previous years, moving from a 1 to a 2 stars, and we had a great celebration. You can see from the chart, we just hit, you need to be above 58% in the upper right-hand corner there. You need to be above 58% to hit 2 stars. So we just hit that last year. We dropped below just a little bit, about 5 percentage points, back down to 1 star. So definitely not where we wanted to be. How did we get there? So that's a roll-up of 3 different measures. So the first being proficiency. And so we had some steady increases over time in proficiency, but this past school year, both in our fall and spring testing combined, we had 46.1% of our students meet proficiency, and so that was a backslide. That's 40% of the weight. Our promotion to 4th grade has always been very strong. You can see this year we had a dip to 93.7. That's 35% of our weight. And then the last one is the fall to fall measure. This one looks at so not just OST, it looks at kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. It looks at where students were in the fall, and it holds those off-track kids. And a year later, it looks at those off-track kids again, and if they move to on-track, we get points. So moving kids from off-track to on-track, and that's 25% of our grade. And we use that, we use the iReady assessment. Now, there are some additional data points in there that I asked Dr. Nguyen to share with us.
So with the promotion to 4th grade, we're still waiting on a few parent waivers. So some of our parents, when they submit their waivers for students to be promoted to 4th grade, and that could change to 93.7%. Also, when we're looking at 3rd grade proficiency, so I drill down a little bit more to see, and what I noticed was that we had 164 3rd graders that came to us last year, brand new. So of the 164 3rd graders, 112 of them were not proficient on the OST. So they didn't start with us from kindergarten. So we're always looking at ways to really help build literacy for those early literacy skills. So we are putting a lot of things in place that we hope that we are confident that it will continue to move our students this year.
Thank you. Yep, and our celebrations are about the great programs that we're starting to implement, and you'll hear a little bit more about those at the end. So next I'm going to ask Marcy Ebright to come talk about our last 2 components.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'm going to talk about graduation rate first. As you can see on the screen, we are 2 stars in graduation, and we are nipping at the heels of 3 stars. So we're very excited about the progress that our teachers, students, and schools are making to increase their graduation on time rate and their 5-year graduation rate. As a reminder, our component graduation rate comes 60% from those students who graduate within 4 years and 40% for those who need 5 years to graduate. That graduation clock always starts when they start 9th grade with us. So that's when we start the clock on students. So as you look at these numbers, they're also a year behind. So the 4-year graduation rate that you're going to see on the next screen that's represented in these numbers as well, they're 1 year behind. So this is the class of 2024 and the class of 2023. You can see the components across time. It has how each of the 4 and 5 year grad cohorts have graduated in the last 5 years, all jumping up almost 8 and 10% respectively. Lots of celebrations, and I said the highest rate in 30 years because that's how long I've been here, and that's the highest I've ever seen it. So I'm very excited about that for all of our students and all of our subgroups of students. We have leading graduation rates for the state of Ohio. As you recall, last year we were led for the urban 8s. We are solidly in the middle of the pack for graduation rates across the state. On the state average, we're right where the state average is. I think a little like 0.1% above. And we don't know the other large urbans yet until their report card data comes out, so we couldn't update you on where if we maintained that status this year, but we are hopeful that we are. We are continuing to exceed those thresholds for progress monitoring each year of school, the things that we look for to make sure students are on track every single semester towards graduation and the requirements that they need to do. And our schools have done an amazing job of monitoring, communicating, and all the remediation strategies that might need to be in place to make sure students have everything they need to attain first-time credit, credit recovery. Our intervention assessment teams at schools monitor very closely the students all through high school, really kicking it into gear their senior year to make sure that they're knocking out everything that they need. Our academy teams and our counseling teams have done an exceedingly amazing job at making sure that students are having what they need to graduate on time or within the 5 years. We also, I'm going to cover with you college, career, workforce, and military readiness, which is our new indicator. As you heard, we've been preparing for this indicator, though, for several years, and the state, the last 3 years, has given us preliminary data that we were able to see. We knew that this was an indicator that we would exceed in across the district, but also across all of our high schools. Because it is a high school only indicator, elementary schools don't receive this particular indicator. So it is new for all of our high schools as well. This year we received an 81.5%, which is right out the gate a 4-star rating, which is exceeding state standards. This component is made up of 11 readiness elements, and I put a copy of those elements by your desktop so that you could review them. The way that it basically works is there's 11 different things. Students before graduation can earn one of those, or they can earn several of them, but they're only worth 1 point, so we can't double dip. So you could have a student that gets an honors diploma, a 12-point credential, 12 or more college credit. They're still just worth 1 point in the numerator out of the denominator of students. So if you have 90 students in a graduating class, or 100 students in a graduating class and 90 students earn at least one of those indicators, you're getting a 90% on your CCWMR indicator. And that's the way that one works. It also lags a year behind. So we are looking again at the class of 2024. Next fall's report card will show the most recent graduating class. On the back side of the document that you have as well, there are some non-report items. The state sends us back how our students performed across those 11 indicators, and on the bottom half of that, it also will share with us how they're doing 6 years after graduation. So the most recent graduating class data I have is 2018. They haven't given me the 2019 yet, but when we have it, we'll update it. So it lets us know how many kids, for example, started college to within 2 years after and finished college within 6 years. And you can see that those numbers were trending up then, so we'll start to see more over time when we watch how our students are performing 6 years after graduation. So some successes there. We got a lot of points in 12-point credentials. I've shared with you on your Friday notes how well our students, we had the most number of credentials ever earned in the history of Akron Public Schools in 12-point credentials with that graduating class. We had a high CCP attainment, more students earning college credits and hitting that 12 college credits. It's not just college credits. They had to hit 12 college credits, which is a pretty high threshold. So we had more students doing that. And we had more students being successful on their career technical education proficiency, which is showing how well that they are performing, sort of like their OSTs of their technical pathways that they're taking. So more students are hitting proficiencies there. We saw increases in WBL hours. We've had a lot of strategies in place to support that. We nearly doubled the results that we had the previous year on how well students performed in earning their WBL hours, which again is pretty high threshold. They have to have 250 documented hours aligned to their pathway of study in order for those hours to count. We had increases in the number of students earning honors diplomas, and we had students doing better on ACT remediation-free scores. But our biggest points came from the items in the top. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lash to finish us up. Oh, Adam Motter to finish us up. I apologize.
So you have all these data points from all 6 components memorized by now. It is a lot. And of course, you're used to this every year with this. And although there were successes in all 6 components, there's more work to be done. What this slide represents is some of the major work in the district this year that are aligned directly to the components. And, you'll hear more about them in future meetings and the data and how the work is moving forward. But you'll notice in each one of these that in parentheses, it is aligned to one or more of the components. And you'll see that many of them are actually aligned to all 6 of the components. So there's a lot of work to be done. The work needs to be done for every student in every school to build the type of systemic change that we want to see. And all of these, and this isn't everything, obviously, we're doing in the district, but some of the priorities that we believe will directly move our report card moving forward are listed here. So at this point, we kind of want to start folding things up a little bit. Dr. Lash, if you could come up and bring us home.
All right, so we've shared an early look at our report card data. Again, this is preliminary, but hopefully we have walked you through the 6 components that led to our preliminary rating of 3 stars. Again, that meets state standards. And before we conclude, I actually want to invite all of our co-presenters up because we do want to make sure we open the floor to the committee for any questions, anything that we could provide additional clarity on, and also how you would like this information shared at the full board meeting. And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you so much to all the subject matter experts. It's good stuff here. And I'd like to open up to questions at this time. Member Hall, and then
Thank you,
President Jackson.
Chair Autry. I just want to say thank you for this wonderful presentation. I love the teamwork, how you all played a part, so thank you. Really good information. I just have a couple concerns. As looking at the proficiency data, by the clusters in the schools, you can, by looking at these numbers, you can really see like what schools really have all the resources, seriously. Between like Ellen and Firestone, their numbers are all high. And then when you look at Bookdale and East, their numbers are not where majority is. Also, looking at this data, from 3rd to 8th grade, you see in 5th grade you have this hike, right, with the numbers and proficiency. But then when you look at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, these numbers all drop. So then when these 8th graders get to high school, they're already below. Like, what are we, I know we're doing the work, right? It shows, but what are we doing with these when we see this drop after 5th grade? So 6th, 7th, and 8th is middle school. So how are we focusing on our middle school to get these numbers back up? Because if I'm looking right here, we'll just use Elliott, for example. Well, no, because they actually went up and then they went back down. I'll use Bookto, for example. From 5th grade, they were at 40. This is the ELA proficiency. I'm looking at the front page. Bookto 5th grade was at 40.28%. 6th grade, they dropped all the way down to 15.13%. Then up just a little bit by 16.16%. And then 8th grade, we dropped under 10%. So how are we really servicing these kids going into high school? You know, so maybe you guys can answer that.
So basically, ELA, first of all, I want to address regarding resources for English language arts. At the onset of the adoption, we made sure that every teacher in every cluster, have the materials that they need in regards to resources for English language arts. But you know, with achievement, there are also other factors that impact the achievement. So we're also, as a team, as Mr. Mater was sharing earlier, with the first bullet that we have is the MTSS. That's the multi-tier system of support with all facets to really make sure that we're meeting the needs of every student, whether that be English language arts or any content area. So one of the things that we do look at, and I know that Dr. Lash is here also, is the chronic absenteeism. We'll also look, there's different things that affect achievement. So it's not only the resources, because I believe for English language arts, I can confidently say that we have the resources at the onset of the adoption, and then every year our teachers order materials when they need it. So I don't believe it's the resources for the materials, the content, but there are other factors that does affect the achievement. And I agree with you, there is a dip in the middle school, so we are looking at things that we're going to look at cohorts of students, and then we're going to work with the teachers. So we're going to drill down by supporting with working through our coaches. So we're doing a lot of the explicit instruction this year and really targeting that to provide strategies. But there are things that we're doing with chronic absenteeism to really address that, to engage our students so they can come to school so they can learn.
Can I just follow up real quick?
Thank you. I just wanted to add to what Dr. Wynn said. There are so many things we're pouring into our students, and one of the things we did at the district level is adopt 2 universal strategies in our school improvement plans. And so looking at Hattie and Anita Archer's work around explicit instruction, we've adopted opportunities to respond, which increases classroom engagement and gives all students the opportunity to engage in the work, to think about their responses, and to share what they know. And so we'll be collecting data and implementing that. We've started already in Instructional Improvement Day. And then also a 4-part vocabulary acquisition strategy, because we know that goes across all content areas, all subjects, in our CCAA classrooms as well, so that we can really begin to boost up that vocabulary acquisition in all areas.
Just a quick follow-up. Thank you for that. But what I was going to say, I'm sorry, Dr. Wynn, it wasn't just the ELA where I saw the numbers decline. This was just the first one on the page, but the numbers were declining in all areas, math and science. The only one that was pretty much standard was social studies proficiency. But that was just my biggest thing, was why the decline in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, especially when our kids are going to high school. So we're doing the work. We just need to figure out what's going on in our middle schools. Not just Bookto. Bookto was the first one on there. That's why I said Bookto. But all the schools have that decline in middle school. Thank you.
And one thing I want to add, we were sidebarring over there, is mention our Transcend survey. And so in addition to the tools and the resources that we provide the educators, looking at what our students are telling us too, that they need for the experiences that we provide them. And our Transcend survey, I think over time has let us know relevance is one of the things that they're not rating high. And so a lot of the buildings and their one plans, as they look at their academic goals, their climate goals, they're using the Transcend data to hear from students about the experiences that they want to see in their buildings. So we just wanted to add that as well.
Thank you. Dr. Jackson.
Yes, thank you. So I was going to speak also to what Member Hall had stated. Because we do know that it is multiple factors that impact student achievement, regardless of where it's at. And because these are standardized tests, it gives us just a quick snapshot. So I think when the information that when you are reporting this out, maybe to the board, like some of the back work that needs to be done, because if I see a 50% drop in performance in a specific domain area, I think about things: what was the classroom environment? What are the teachers reporting? What was going on, like per cluster, as far as doing an attendance pool for one. Also behaviors, right? Because you can have some students who typically, if we really broke this down, which is a lot of work, if we look per grade, per students who naturally perform proficient or higher, and then they dropped, what was the classroom environment at the time? What are some new factors in the classroom that could have impacted focus or students' ability to learn? What is the teacher report? Is there a different teacher? So it is very multifaceted. So I wanted to kind of unpack that, because resources plays a role, environment plays a role, consistency of the teacher plays a role. We have had people come in and talk about attendance. And so even though they may all have the same resources, all those resources may not be used into the level of fidelity that they could be used if I don't have consistent in attendance with the teacher. So these are the things that we can look at, because that will give us an informed intellect when we're observing this as to where we need to focus on. Because yes, we have great resources. We talk about these offerings, and that's why even in our last meeting, it was important that people understand the Title I funds and how the building leader can utilize and determine what is needed in the building as far as tutoring or extra services that their direct building may need. So I wanted to be mindful of that and say that I too do recognize that, but that needs to be spoken to in a way, because if people are looking at these numbers. Also, when we talk about the comparison to the state, right? If the state standard is low, then I'm looking to exceed state standards, not meet them, right? And so, again, it goes to what is the lack, what is missing, and also the performance per cluster. I like how it puts all this information in per cluster. I'm interested per school, because per school also, and this is just me, I'm one board member, so y'all don't have to go do this work. I'm not saying this is a whole board thing. I'm just telling you how I think. Because then I wonder about the schools, and then I wonder about the EL teams within the schools. And if one school is performing on the elementary ring higher, because we know this is an average, it's taking the culminating scores. But I might be an ELA teacher that can boast, oh, my kids are here. I know what the district says, but me and my team, our kids are here. Those are the teachers I want to inform instructional practices and what they are doing differently, that their outcomes per their classes and individual students are different. Because there's so many considerations, and that's why when these scores come out, the state level, and you present it and it's high level, and it's going to be picked apart. People watch it, and it's like low performance. But it's so much in this, that it's really hard to just break it down properly to be able to even see growth and work in some cases. Because when I see growth, when it says, oh, we made this percentage growth, and I'm like, yeah, that's still below. It's only, you got 20,000 kids, or, So that's my mindset. Secondly, I wanted to, because I may have missed it, and I saw the middle school data, but I did not see the high school data. I saw a quick reference to what AAA did and Akron Early College, but as far as to see from the high school level, what is the high school? I see the middle school cluster, elementary, middle school together, but I didn't know if I missed where it showed me the high school where they're performing at.
So because the high school doesn't call them grade level exams, they're going to be at the bottom of each chart. So ELA 2 is 10th grade English. And so you'll be able to see those.
Oh, so when it shows EL2, is that 10th, like?
ELA 2 is 10th grade, so that's the only English high school assessment. And so you can match that up with your cluster high school. We have Algebra 1, which is our 9th grade math course, Geometry, which is typically 10th grade.
Okay.
And if we keep going, right, Biology, 10th grade. All right, it's now, yeah.
Okay,
So course sequence matters, I guess, in some schools. But American government and American history then are 2 high school exams.
yeah, and is that 10th, 11th?
Well, I'm afraid to
nine.
not ask my counterpart
That's
here.
10th, 11th, right? Yeah, because I'm a
Mostly.
history person, so. Okay, so that's good information to know as well, to be able to pinpoint, but thank you for the clarification, because I'm like, where are the high school? How is high school performing? And then, wait, where's my other questions? I'm sorry, because I didn't want to keep you all up here. High school, I had another question. Oh, okay, yes. So for the gifted, gap closing measures and indicators on the gifted performance indicators. So we have the gifted identification services, and I see that we have 5s in showing that we receive. However, I'm curious as to, we receive the points for the identification, but yet it's no growth or progress. And that's perplexing to me, because I'm curious as to why. Because if we identify, right, so we're getting the point saying the tools and things are in place to identify the gifted, so why then do we not see a monitoring of growth or how these individuals are growing?
Thank you, Dr. Jackson, for raising that question. And our colleague is not among us to speak to gifted, but what I can tell you, and I'll defer, the nitty-gritty to Melissa, but let me go back to this. What I can tell you is that, yes, and I know I believe you raised this question last year, this time too. So gifted identification and services, you are correct. We are identifying, providing the services, and thus we are obtaining the max possible score. Progress is not in yet, so we don't have that. But we have not met that when you look at 2022, 23, and last school year. But the Gifted Performance Index, we didn't receive those points because you're right, that subgroup did not meet the state goal for achievement there. So again, that's what I can, just point back to the data in this piece, but to have more kind of fruitful conversation, if you will, and discussion around gifted, I would defer to Melissa Freimeyer, and I'm going to look back to see if any of my other, okay, yes.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because to your point,
Yeah.
I've asked this multiple years, and now the data for the previous year is present. It's still 0. Because it's, when you have interventions in place, you have to have some type of measure of growth. And if not, then it's ineffective. And now we see a trend. And we all know that after 3 years of a trend, it's a problem. Because 3 years is enough of data to say we got a problem. Whatever we're doing is not right. So if we're identifying and we're providing services, and I know this is not for you, Dr. I'm just,
Yes.
I'm just saying,
Right.
if my child is gifted, if I know that my child, or my child is tested and did the gifted assessment, and it doesn't seem growth, or if I'm a parent, I've been questioning anyway about certain things in the school, then it's easier for me to move my child to a different school, because I think my child is not being served. And these are the things I need us to consider and to talk about, especially when we talk about parents leaving the district, why they leave the district, because
some parents do have high-performing students. And if they're in a program, and I as a parent, if I'm an educator, because I have had parents speak to me that are highly educated with children in a district that have questioned, that's what made me always come to this gifted part, because they do question certain services, okay? And so I think that's something to look into. Like, it's one thing I can say we offer it, I have everything in place. But that, it always comes out in it just tells the story. And so you should see some type of growth. So thank you for that, Dr. Lash. I really appreciate how you always take the time to try to answer this, and the rest of the team, because I respect what you do professionally. Lastly, the gap closing celebrations. Someone had already kind of answered this, that the majority of the work that we see are the credentials are as a result of the credentials that they receive, is why we see a lot of the improvement in graduation rates. Is that fair? Is that a fair assessment, that most of them are getting over that line because of the credentials? Because I would
say we probably, the first way students can graduate is straight on with their OST proficiency scores and meeting the competency scores there for English and math. Probably, I don't know the exact breakdown. Last time I looked, about 50% did that. And then the alternative path to competency would be the CTE competency. So the balance of most of the kids are using that, which would be the credentials, proficiency tests, WBL, all those other ways that they could demonstrate readiness.
Which I think is great to have an alternative pathway. Mm-hmm. I think the other layer to that, what I'm curious about, because I also like that you shared with us about the 6 years out data. I think that's good information to know. However, the students who are graduating with the alternative pathways, who are not proficient, particularly in areas of reading and math, I think that programs like the college and careers are more beneficial, I would say, or equitable if we know that they are going into, when they graduate, we have them employed in the field. I think that is what, for me, really is the greatest leverage of these programming, because it's cool that they get the certification, but then if they graduate and they're still below, because we're trying to both contributing citizens, right, that feel a sense of significance and empowerment through a level of professional setting, whether that's HVAC, whether that's culinary programs where they can feed and take care of themselves in a respectable manner. And if college is not the choice, which is fine, but in careers are, like leveraging our programming to where we are positioning these learners in careers upon a graduation. I know we do the 250 internships, but how is that matriculate into, I have benefits, I'm graduating high school, I'm not going to college, but I've learned this skill, and this skill can provide and take care of me. I think instead of just, I did something, I got these credentials, now I'm on the block. Or something.
As a CTE district, we're the largest CTE district in the state, so we also get what's called a career technical planning report card, which is a whole other set of indicators in addition to these that show how well we are preparing students for post-secondary and how well they are prepared after post-secondary. And one of those indicators is called the post-program follow-up, in which we reach out 6 months after graduation to see if students are employed, enrolled, or enlisted someplace. Mm-hmm. So we do have that preliminary data. I think I put some in your Friday notes, and typically we'll come and bring a presentation on a deep dive on how the career technical planning side of our district prepared kids. But those numbers are looking really positive too. I can't remember the percentages off the top of my head right now, but they were the highest that they've been. Yeah.
I remember you talked about that last year. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about working, getting a check.
Correct.
Upon graduation.
How many kids are employed.
Yeah,
yes,
like
correct.
I'm saying,
yeah.
I'm graduating, and I'm already I'm going to use this for example, I'm already working at Firestone. That was, right. And upon graduation, that now I have a commitment that I'm moving into full-time employment at Firestone. Or because of this relationship or my experience, I've been able to work part-time for a good year, just throwing this stuff out here. Or SUMA, I'm talking about actual not theoretical, upon I'm walking the stage and I have a guarantee I'm working for, or I'm going into one of these unions, journeyman programs for HVAC, I got 2 more years, but I'm already employed getting this amount. I'm talking about to that level, not to when they graduate. Then we wait 6 months or 6 years, and then some of them dropped off. They're not even doing anything with their pathways.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, and this
Right.
is just for the thought.
I took a note on it. Yeah,
Like
I think we could
leverage, 'cause
definitely
I-
ask kids. We do a senior exit survey to sort of see what their plans are. And those questions can certainly be embedded in there and followed up on to see where they're at.
Yeah, or what can we as a district or we as the board, how can we help to leverage those type of like what, because it may be a need that this body needs to do. I'm just trying to think, I'm not trying to make this a more heavy lift, because college and careers, in my opinion, CT is doing has some great things in place, has a great framework in place. I'm just saying, how can it still be great after I graduate? Like where I reap the benefits once I'm done in school and I don't have any more credentials that I need to get, but I can feed myself off of what I did. And my school helped to partner me with that before graduation. Okay, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, Mrs. Marcy. The kids that, talking about what Carla's stating, or Madam President over there stating, how do we look at every kid who's a senior and follow them up 6 months and see where they're at? Or we just...
Every
student,
senior,
okay.
even seniors who dropped out, we have to try to follow up to see what they're doing. So, which is a monumental task, as you can imagine. We're calling family members, we're calling friends who might know where they're at to see if they're enrolled or if they're going, what they're doing. So, yes, every student, the state provides us with a list of students to follow up with. It's a team effort because the EL department also needs to follow up with their students as well as special ed. So we all kind of take a bite of that apple and then get the data submitted. We have to get the list in October. We have to have it submitted by January in order to get it in the report card results.
Okay, so that's something that maybe you guys can bring to the board so they can see, for example, X number of kids graduated in the nursing program at North, how many are actually working in the medical field, how many came out and were in masonry, and are they working in masonry or not? And that way I think that might suffice what board members are actually asking. Okay.
We look at the opposite side of the labor statistics of the area, and we look at the youth and how many are employed in the area industries as well. So we follow that type of data too.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Harrison.
Mr. Alexander, I was in the middle of my question. So this is my last two, I promise. So 164 third graders not proficient in ELA, but they were transfers in 112. Okay, the 112 were the transfers? Excellent, thank you so much. So 164 was not proficient, but out of that 164, 112.
So there were 164 new third graders last year. Of the 164, 112 of them were not proficient on the OST third grade.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Okay, so 164 new third graders, which is cool, coming into the district. And so out of those new students, 112 were not proficient. The question I wonder, too, is because we know that we have a high increase of English as second language or English as, second language students transferring in. And so we know that plays a major part in the standardized testing because, as I understand, they can't get it translated. They have to take the test. And so if they just have to take the test, then it's going to be there is always behind the 8 ball because they can be very bright, very intelligent, but the barrier is a language barrier at that time. And I asked about interpreters or someone being able to read the test. And could you come back up because where's one? When? Oh, yeah. So I'm sorry. It's because I don't think they can. This is important information for people to know, though, because when you look at what's happening in North Hill and now East Akron, also, you can see a large population coming in. They cannot get the test read to them in their language. Is that correct?
Not for ELA.
Right. So
It
that's
has to
correct.
be in English. That is correct.
Okay, so that's very important. So when you're looking at this data, you have to realize the ridiculousness of this. Because, and the reason why I'm saying ridiculousness, I understand that we want them to be competent in English, but these could be high performing who completely understand but it's just a language barrier, which is also true from some inner city children and from children who come from households of uneducated parents. So the data reflects, it's easy for people to wrap their head around non-English speaking people, but also wrap your hand around people who are coming from a non-educated household and how they then interpret English language. And so when you see it in a standardized format, how there's going to be some challenges there as well. So, okay, thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure that was said on the mic so people understood that. What I'm curious about so that we can know is what subgroup does that population represent, that those who transferred in and who are not proficient? Do they represent any particular subgroup as we know the state does? And if so, that's important information, but I want to posit that information is important for all the test scores. And even though we speak to it, it would be good for us to see the subgroups and how they perform in the various categories.
Definitely. We'll get that information for you regarding which subgroups for you in that.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna leave it alone at this point. Just let somebody, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I start, I want to say that there is, my questions in no way are challenging the findings or challenging us, what we do to have our kids proficient. I do want to address one comment that was made with Dr. Nguyen and just kind of keeping to the forefront that resources go beyond tangible things. So when we're talking about our children that are having housing challenges, we can give them things, but we still have to take into account that they have housing challenges. So just wanted to make that statement. A couple of questions I have. First is, what impacts growth? So the growth that we have made in a different school, are we documenting what has moved the needle in these schools? I understand that some schools have additional tutoring. So are we documenting that, hey, this was a key factor in this school? Do we have an ideal of what has made a difference in what buildings?
Thank you for the question, Pastor Harrison. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are documenting, and it depends. It depends on the OST. For example, in social studies, there are actual content-specific strategies that we're using across different schools and documenting who's doing it and how often and how successfully. And then there's other things that are district-wide initiatives. Whether we're talking about OSI-related, clarity, or our new pushes around explicit instruction, and so these are district-wide designs to build systemic change, and they're also being documented. Reading into your question. Some of the variability we're able to document, and other times, you have to dig, you have to ask, was there something else that was different? I believe it was Ms. Jackson who talked about attendance and other variabilities involved as well. But we do try to document change. For example, shout out to East. East had the largest growth in U.S. history and American government of all our schools this year. And we have been able to document some of the things that those teachers, and they are responsible every day working with kids, that they did differently. And other times it's, there's so many variables that it is difficult, especially when we try to build equity among all our schools with all our kids. So sometimes it is hard, to your point, to document everything. Keith, I would call Keith up. I don't know if that helps, but from a large picture.
I was going to give you two more examples, and this is where you'll get us excited. We'll want to talk to you all night long. But, we listened and heard our principals talk about the centralized reporting system. You may also know that. So it's a portal with all of the released Ohio State questions, which gives teachers the opportunity to build formative assessments. So we saw great things happening at STEM Middle School and also, I believe, Litchfield. So we began to replicate that. And so we're moving that to all buildings this year, using that as our quarterly assessments and the state tested results. We also watched Schumacher. Over COVID, they started doing explicit instruction strategies, which really is about planning and delivery of instruction. So you heard me mention those two. But also, we've been working with Teaching and Learning about ECRI, Enhanced Core Reading Instruction, which takes, you remember letters, we talked about letters, takes everything that the teachers learned about letters, it takes our Wonders curriculum, and it realigns them with really amazing opportunities to respond and access their curriculum at a high level for students. And what was I going to mention about that? Oh, so it really invigorates Core 1 tier instruction, but then also has a plan for Tier 2, which is all tightly aligned, which we know from the research. If you're already struggling in Tier 1, let's not give you something different in Tier 2. Let's do it deeper, better, and stronger. And so we're learning that from our buildings. And now we went from seeing great results in one building. We went into 12 buildings last year, saw great results, and now we're in 20 buildings this year.
Okay. Thank you. And I guess, are we documenting the teachers that's doing exceptionally well and those who are not doing so well? Are we keeping notes? And I just want to get bare bones with that, okay? Because at the end of the day, it's the teachers that's going to make the difference. Yes.
That's not rhetorical. Well, I can tell you, yes. In fact, Larry tapped into multiple data points to even, give that professional opportunity this summer to go to the Ron Clark Academy. But just today, we were working with senior leadership on what we're calling a pulse check, so we can capture those great things that are happening in classrooms, but also when we're not seeing our district strategies. We can come back and talk about that data and look at the trends and what do we need to do professional development-wise to either help share those good things or give support to those areas that we need to improve on. And so we'll be able to accomplish that much better with the walkthrough form that we're working on.
Okay, thank you.
We do it when those value-added results come out. They come at the teacher level, the building level, and the district level. And so we do celebrate them with a classroom visit and a little gift bag, swag bag, all donated to celebrate those teachers who show more than a year's growth with their students. So
okay.
I will let you know about that.
Thank you. And I think that is, when we're showing growth on a state test, I think we really can look at the teachers, and I believe that a district our size can really incentivize the teachers by saying, what else do you need? What else can we do to support you? And I think in that way, we may be incentivizing other teachers to, I know change is hard. Promotion of fourth grade. What would prevent a child from being promoted to the fourth grade from the third grade? Is that an automatic step? And if I was a parent and did not want my child, I did not think my child was ready for 4th grade, is that something that I can say I don't think he's ready?
Yes, so the parents have a choice. So when the students take the 3rd grade proficiency test, if they don't meet the cut score for the reading sub-score of 50 or the OST 700, then the parents have the right to say, I still want my students to move forward. So there's a form that they complete, and if a parent says, well, I want my child to be retained, they have that final say.
So do you have to fill out a form to not move forward, or do you fill out the form to stay, to keep your child in 3rd grade?
So for the form, they would say if they want their child to move forward, knowing and understanding that their child did not meet the proficiency score. But the parents have a right to keep the child in 3rd grade if they didn't meet it. But it's usually a collaborative between the parent, the principal, and the teacher, so they talk through together. So, yes, but the parents have the final say.
Yeah. I didn't find that to be the case with my child. That's why I'm asking.
Because the law changed the past 3 years. Before, if a child did not meet it, they had to be retained. But the state changed it to now the parents at the past. I would say 2 or 3 years the state have changed that rule. So maybe the time that when your child, if you didn't have that, that could be because at that time the state required, if students didn't meet it, that we had to retain them. There was a process where the kid can be promoted, the student can be promoted mid-year too, but the law has changed.
Okay. My other question is, are we doing any post-graduation tests? I know we're celebrating graduation rates, but that first year, if I'm graduating with honors and my first year in college, I'm in remedial classes, it's kind of difficult to say that I should have graduated with honors. So, I know the 6-year mark is we're looking 6 years ahead, but I think for APS, a true, accurate indicator, if we're meeting that, would be college placement tests. Do we have any data on that?
I'm going to let Ms. Culver come up and talk about college placement tests.
So we do have some strategies in place where we are identifying our students who are close to being college ready on their ACT or SAT and providing them support. It's generally the ACT or SAT or the AccuPlacer that determines where the student is going, what level the student is going to in college. So we are trying to grab those students and support them prior to leaving. The other thing that we are doing is we are building in our curriculum College Credit Plus courses. So the students have that opportunity for some non-tested courses to build college skills. Because we know students can get a high placement score, but then don't have those college management skills. So we are working on both ends to help our students access that. So for instance, we have some of our teachers that are teaching college success skills courses, and students are able to manage some of those skills.
And I guess my question, a more clearer question, I guess I should ask the clearest question is, okay, so once I graduate from APS and then I move on to University of Akron, Ohio State, I would hope none of our kids would be going to Michigan, but if they so choose to go.
If the money's right.
Yeah. So I take my course, I take my placement test to get my schedule, and they say, well, okay, you need a remedial math class or you need a remedial writing class. Are we monitoring that?
No, once they graduate, that is out of our realm.
Okay. And I'm not sure if SEI is monitoring that.
Yes, they are. They are
So
good.
can we,
So the data that you saw that came back on the sheet that I gave you comes back
Yeah.
from the state. So they follow up post-secondary where students are at, and then they send all that data back to us. We don't necessarily track them beyond that. Ms. Culver's Gear Up program is a great example of a program that would do just what you're asking, where they're following the students into their first or second year of college?
First year.
First year of college. So they're working with students starting in middle school, all through high school, and then getting them in that hump into that first year of college, which, if y'all remember, that's probably the hardest year, right? Getting used to all of that. So Gear Up is a great example of a program that you're asking for, right? That to replicate and have the sustainability to be able to follow and support kids post-secondary.
This question would go into my next question, because I want to make sure that we're not moving the goalposts to obtain graduation rates. And so when we're looking at the college, career, workforce, and military readiness, and we've seen significant gains there. But when we are the credentials as opposed to academic success, okay, when we're doing the credentials, I want to make sure that we are not, that these kids, when they leave high school, that they have, even if they don't walk into a job, they have the skill set and they are ready for a job, and that we're not moving a goalpost to obtain our numbers and not doing our children's service. So how are we looking at that? Okay, so if you can give me an example of a credentialed pathway. Okay, someone is not going to graduate from an academic place, and so we've created a credentialing criteria for them. Am I asking that the right way?
I think I might understand. I think that the state was really wise when they went with multiple ways for competencies for kids to graduate. I know when I graduated school, I had to get 18 credits. I was done out the door. Our students need 21 credits. They have to demonstrate a competency, whether that is an academic testable competency or a CTE competency or a military competency, that the state recognizes multiple ways of competencies, and that has nothing to do with the credit and the academic rigor that they go through. Every kid has 21 credits, same 21 credits. That hasn't changed to get that threshold. And then the last piece is their preparedness, which is how many seals that they earn, graduation seals on top of that. And every student has to have at least 2 graduation seals. So we call that their credits, their competencies, and their seals. So the rigors and the standards are very high, I think. I think that for every student, it's as individual as the student's needs, their interests. And I think the reason we're seeing higher graduation rates is because of those things. We sent, I didn't have this in there, but we sent about 10 years of our graduate data to Hanover Research a couple years ago and asked them, what does it take for our kids to graduate on time? What is a kid who starts with us in 9th grade and finishes in 4-year? What does that kid look like in Akron Public Schools? And the 3 big things that came back were stability. Did they have a stable environment? Did they start in 9th grade and did they stay in that high school the whole time? Those were the kids we graduate on time. Did the kid have first-time credit attainment? The kids who got first-time credit and didn't have to do a lot of credit recovery, those were the kids we graduated on time. The academic side of the house has done an incredible job working on instructional strategies to make sure kids are getting first-time credit. And the third one is, are they involved in their school in some way? And the academy model with clubs, activities, enrichments, academics, or athletics, whatever it might be, has given kids a place. And I think that's where we're seeing the improvement in graduation rates.
Okay, and I don't want to sound like a preacher here, but okay, so we have to make sure that we're doing things for the least of these. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so when you speak of those things and the institute that gave us that data, that's great. But the reality is most of our kids don't fit that profile. A lot of our kids, I won't say most of them, a lot of our kids don't fit that profile. So I want to make sure that we're not creating a pathway where someone works as a custodian and we're calling that a seal, we're calling that a pathway. And so we're just padding things that I want to make sure that our kids are able, they have the actual tangible tools and resources to leave high school and find a job, or they're work ready. And if they don't find a job, it's because they don't want a job, but we prepared them as a district. And so our kids have challenges, and I think we have to meet those challenges by, and the test scores doesn't say it all. Of course, we need test scores, but the test scores don't really tell the whole story about our kids. But I just want to make sure, and that's why sometimes it comes across as maybe being cynical or questioning the professional staff. It's not questioning the staff. It's simply acknowledging that our kids look different, they learn different, they have different challenges. And so this data don't tell a story. And while I do want to celebrate the data, unfortunately, when I leave here and drive home, I'm seeing kids that this data don't speak of. So I just want to make sure we're not moving goalposts to obtain numbers, graduation rate, and alternative pathways are actually doing something for our kids. They're actually ready, and it's just not an alternative pathway, so we don't get a bad grade. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. And so we had a lot of information presented to us, a lot of commentary, and so hopefully you guys can tweak and whatever you need to tweak. The presenters had asked this board, how would we like this information shared with the full board? Being that there's 5 board members here, the majority of us have received the bulk of this information. However, with student achievement being the reason why we exist, it certainly should still come before the full board in some method, but we probably can't allot this amount of time at our full board meeting. And please note, this time next year, we will allot more time because this is good stuff. And again, student achievement should be our focus, as we've learned. So I don't know if my colleagues have any suggestions on how we present this to the full board, how we can condense it down to fit our needs. Certainly, we should all get a copy of this emailed to us. Yes. Dr. Jackson?
Yes, I think just hitting the points on the AYP, like the progress made per year, per the clusters in the group, like we've had this much gains, and then the action steps for improvement of low areas. Just really high level, the data showing the annual yearly progress, how we progress in the various domains, and how we are working to obtain additional growth. It was that one slide that showed areas of growth, acknowledging what needs to be done, and recognizing we are also looking per cluster for individual strategies and things that are in place. Just those real high level. And I think it was Mater or Keith came and talked to, no, it was Keith, about best practices. We saw it put in a portal, what was being done at Litchfield, and so then we put it to 12 other buildings. We see what works, and so this is what we've put into place. Just very simple. Where we're at, where we're trying to go, and how we're going to get there.
Thank you. Good stuff. Dr. Harris, or Reverend Harrison.
That's all right. That's cool. I would really like to see the supports in the buildings. So the supports that are outlined in a different building, who has what, and I know it can't be all inclusive, but I also would like to know at some point who needs what. But also from the teachers, what do they think they need to continue in the growth, positive growth? Thank you.
Thank you. Member Hall.
I would agree with Dr. Jackson about exactly what she said. I think that hits the point, all the key points. But I would also ask, when things are coming on our agenda, you stated that there was a survey done with the students to find out what they need and so forth. I think that would be important to put maybe in the agenda, so when we as a board is voting, we're not just thinking, oh, I'm going to say, well, is this really needed, or, is this really important, or do we need to be doing something different? But if you can put in the agenda, like, survey from students, this is what they need, however you want to frame it. I think that's important because if this is about kids, we need to be listening to our students for them to be able to grow within our district. So something like that in the agenda, in the little notes, would be important for me.
Thank you.
Just
Dr.
last,
Jackson.
also for the team, and just for the sake of to minimize questions that could be asked, get out in front of it, put the schools that's qualified for Title I services, because then, like to Member Harrison's point, certain things we know certain buildings are going to require and why they are requiring it. So if this building qualifies for Title I services and that building, because it can tell the story as why they have more Title I tutors in this building versus this. So it's not a matter of preference that someone decided to give this building more, but it's a matter of they met the requirements. So if you just can kind of they have this, so then we know which schools need funding for because they don't qualify for this money.
Thank you. Anything, Mr. Alexander?
Yeah, I'm just going to kind of concur with Ms. Jackson, but I always want to see where we're supposed to go, where we're at, and then how we're going to get there, and if we need to make those improvements to get there. Because I look at it as a sliding scale. If we're here and we're trying to get here, what do we need to do from here to get here? But if we're here, how do we need to go from here to get here? And it's going to be progress because it's not going to happen all in 1 year and all at one time. So we got to make sure we have those stair steps so that we can see where they're going. I always want to know where they're going because I'm always looking at the highest level. And how can we get to the highest level? Every kid, knowing that they're not going to get there. Every student's not going to get there. But if we shoot for, at least they can get higher than where they were and where we maybe even expected them to be. So, and the last thing, so I'm sorry, Madam President, is Madam Chair, is to rigor. I think we've dummied down too many things. That's just my personal thing. We don't give our kids rigor anymore, and that's why they're failing. We've seen that a lot during COVID when our kids could not get through the rigor. They couldn't get through a lot of that time. I just talked recently to some kids, and they were talking about how they just gave up. These are adults now, but gave up during COVID because they couldn't handle it. A lot of other countries, they put those kids through that rigor no matter what, and that's why they're surpassing and doing better than our kids because we failed to give them that rigor that they need so they can be stronger and to fight through things to get there, and that's going to help them in the long run too when they become adults. If not, we're going to have adults that won't be strong enough to move forward either. So in saying that, just the three things: where we need to go, where we at, and how we need to get to that next level. Thank you.
Yes, Keith.
Thank you.
Mr.
Just a
McDee,
point of
sorry.
clarity for our team so we can plan. Were you looking for the explanation of resources per building for the board meeting, or would you like that brought back to instructional policy? That's a lot to bring to a board meeting.
Probably the
No, not
committee.
to the board meeting at all.
Just back to
and
the
just even synthesize for instructional policy, just basically high level, these buildings receive Title I funds. Because then as board members, we should do our due diligence. You can research how Title I funds work. And so, I mean, I wouldn't want you guys to do all that work.
I could share that with you tonight.
Yeah, so it's just simple, just so visually,
Yes.
because then for those who don't receive those funds, then that's the other part I think that board members are trying to see. How do we help them if they don't get it? Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you so much to everyone again and to my colleagues. And so I know we're well beyond our time. However, there was a topic that was of importance that needs to be addressed. If we can take some time, as I do see the building leadership here from Buchtel CLC, as there's been some questions around the cosmetology hair design program. And I apologize for this time going over, but I wanted to invite your team up at this time to share out.
Thank you. Yes, if Beth, Will, Deanna, Lucretia, Michelle, come up with you, but we put some notes up in your Friday notes around the Bookto Cosmetology program and the updates that we received from the State Licensure Board on August 18th, I believe, and the type of licensure that they are able to do for juniors and sophomores this coming year. Just as a reminder, the seniors maintain the original licensure program that they're working under. So invited, there seemed like be a lot of questions coming about, so the team thought we would just come together, and if there's questions that you have that we can field now beyond what you were reading in your Friday notes or updates, that we could get those answered for you.
Thank you. So I'll just start off by saying thank you for being here. So we understand there's been changes to the program. You know, when I'm out in the community, I refer people a lot. We have cosmetology at Bookto. And so we learned that there was some changes in the program. There has been some communication back and forth. I think it's important publicly that people have a true understanding of what we actually have to offer our students. And so.
All right, so I'm going to start by saying good evening to Chair Autry, President Dr. Jackson, Reverend Harrison, Ms. Hall, Superintendent Outley, and Bruce Alexander. I am Lucretia Denson, and I'm the campus principal at Bookto CLC. And I've brought my colleagues with me. Deanna Edwards is the College and Career Academy coach at Bookto CLC. You guys are familiar with Marcy and Beth, and my direct supervisor, Michelle, and Will Casterlo, who is also with College and Career Academy. You guys know how to set up for a tall person, so I'm gonna pick it up if y'all don't mind, because I don't want to be leaning over the whole time. All right, so we have questions about the cosmetology program. Dr. Jackson.
Thank you. I'm going to be as you know, I graduated from Garfield High School, and we had a phenomenal cosmetology program, and many of my friends who are in cos have been very successful, are successful salon owners to this day. However, one thing that I did recognize, because I couldn't wrap my head around these issues with cosmetology. This is the second time around, but it came before, and I remember bringing it to Marcy, and then I was told everything was on track. But what I realized, and I've had students bring this up earlier on about the block, about how the scheduling is. When I was at Garfield, I remember they spent, I think it's the afternoon, you would see I'm sorry, Karen? Yeah, Transop, is that what you're calling?
Yes.
Okay, so I remember, and it was the restaurant people did the same thing. So I would see them in the morning, the whole other half of the day, people would come from other schools, and they would be in COS, all the rest of the day. They would be in restaurant management the rest of the day. And I understand, so I couldn't wrap my head, it didn't make sense when people were telling me, we don't have time. I'm like, these programs have been done with Fidelity. I graduated in 98. Some of my friends are the coldest hairstylists in the city and have been for years. And they came through Garfield. So this is the question I want to posit to you, everyone in here. Is the majority of the problem, because as I researched this, cosmetology has to get, in order for them to be on track upon graduation, they have to receive 500 hours per year.
That is correct.
Okay. And so I looked and saw with the credential, the 250 hours for the internships that students do. That's half of that time, right? For the internships, I'm making a connection. I'll go there. So I said, okay, 250 hours is clearly plausible, because we see the students getting it for their internships through CTE. So we know that half of that time is attainable. But now when we double that to 500, is it even a realistic measure that students, and I'm only asking this because, like I said, when in 98, they had more, they had half a day. What I'm understanding now with the block schedule, they are not getting the 3-hour window to be in cosmetology. So my question is this even a feasible expectation that was set for this school and for this program?
Okay.
Kind of, that's just what I'm sitting there. That's where my mind is at.
Okay.
My only
So
question.
thank you for that question. So when cosmetology was at Garfield, the scholars were able to get 3 hours a day, which ended up having, by the end of their third year, them being, the second year being able to earn the 1,500 required hours, okay? So now with it being half of that time, it's an hour and a half, with perfect attendance, our scholars can earn 449 hours a year out of the required 500 hours. That also incorporates the 50 hours that they have to do their distance learning on their own. So again, out of the 500 hours, if they're on time every day, perfect attendance, and they do the 50 hours required at home, the most they can earn is 449 of the 500. With how it's set up currently.
Reverend Harrison.
Okay, and my question, again, is not for the building leadership. It's not for the building leadership. It's for who sets this up. I too graduated from Garfield, and when I graduated from Garfield, they had their hours in like at the beginning of their senior year. Mm-hmm. It wasn't set up like it was now or when President Jackson was in. It was still set up before then, but we were graduating at the end of the year 10 or 12 cosmetologists a year. And so if we're looking at college and career, I think we're setting kids up for failure if we're saying if they do this thing perfectly over 3 years, that they can achieve this. But we know that it's not possible. So we need to look at how we are scheduling this program. And that doesn't come from the building level. That comes from 10 North Main. We need to look at this program and find a way to give these kids an opportunity to win. And I just don't think it's feasible to say you got to do everything right for 3 years to even put yourself in a position. So when I read the Friday notes, and if we've been doing this for 40 years, we've been graduating cosmetologists for 40 years. Now, if we can do it over at Garfield, and I know Garfield is a heck of a school, and just the atmosphere is a lot different and everything like that. Even the water is different in Firestone Park. I know that. But if we can do that for 40 years over there, then we certainly ought to be able to come up with something to set these kids up to win at 1040.
So. And I think we do have the hours and the time available, because we're talking about classroom time. The students also get credit for the chemistry and biology classes that they take. Those count as hours in their time. They can count internship. They can't count the full 250. It's up to 150 hours of their internship hours can be counted towards that. They also have distance learning labs that are required in those hours. So there's multiple ways in which students can earn the hours. And I know when we brought this last year, we had this question. We also know the program got a lot of hits. All the time during COVID, they didn't let us count those hours. And then we had a teacher that went on and leave for a year and a half. They didn't let us count those hours. Then the year that we got a sub in there who was a licensed cosmetologist, first year he was in, they didn't let us count those hours. So then they had us go back to hair design at that time, remember? And then he's finally got his licensing fully up, and they let us go back to the full cos, hair, skin, and nails, which is the other two pieces. And so we were like, okay, great, we got a fully licensed cos teacher, we're back in there. And the problem at the end of the day is that the state says we haven't produced enough licensed cosmetologists the last 5 years. And that was their complaints. And that's why they said, well, until you can start producing licensed cosmetologists, we can't approve the full 3 parts of the cosmetology license for you. So that's where we got hit with it. The current seniors are still in full cosmetology. We've looked at their numbers and what they've attained, and they look on track, many of them on track to finish and meet their hours by this spring. So we're very optimistic that he's going to have a graduating class ready to sit for licensure this spring. And then we're hopeful with that, if we take that back to the state and we get a nice little letter from our board supporting us, and we can say, hey, can we get this back on to full licensing, that the State Board of Cosmetology should look upon that favorably. He's also had really great outcomes. When you talk about work-based learning, he does have the most highest percentage of students in the district are getting WB hours in the COS program. So he is working that process. And so, like I said, I'm very optimistic that kids are going to hit those thresholds. I know I'm going to let Ms. Denson talk about the plans this year for our current students and some of the expectations. And I think one of the problems I saw early on is I didn't think that the kids and the families were well informed about what it was going to take to get through all these markers. Because they're 16, and it's complicated, all the lab and theory and classroom and remote learning, all these different things you have to check off. And so throughout last year, the teacher worked on a communication plan monthly to the students and home to the families. And this year and last year, we built out orientations that walked families through the rigor that this program requires. For the kiddos in it right now, heading in between their sophomore and junior year, there will be a summer opportunity that's going to be compulsory if they're going to get through all the hours. We gave them some thresholds. I'm going to let Ms. Denson talk to that, because I think you have family meetings coming up this week, right? Do you want to speak to that?
If we can, wait a minute, yeah, let's, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to head out shortly. But quick question, you said there's some seniors right now that are taking the course. How many seniors do we have in the cosmetology class, and how many are projected to graduate in 2026?
There's 12.
And all 12 are projected to graduate with their license? With their hours?
With their hours?
Of what, 1,500?
Have that?
I don't have the breakdown. I know that hours looked good, is what I understood.
See, that's important to know, because when we stand here and we're, just saying like we have 12, and then come May or June and we graduate 4, that's a problem. So like, how could we have?
They'll all graduate.
I'm sorry, not, you guys know what I mean. Graduate with the license.
Yes.
If the number is like even below half, I think that's a problem. So can you get that number and then maybe let us know in email? Thank you.
Yes, but we have an ask, all right? I don't know if it's time for that yet, but in order to ensure that they get the 1,500 hours, we are asking for a 0.5 instructor so that our students can get additional hours. So the school day ends at 3:15, they can start at 3:30, work until 4:30, 5 o'clock with an additional instructor, and then that way we ensure that they get the hours by the end of the school year. We had 2 students, 2 scholars, I know we don't say names here, but we had two scholars who graduated last year that were very close to that threshold. I think it was 1,387 hours one student had. Another one had 1,200 hours. So if we were able to get a 0.5 person in the building, then we would make sure that those students meet their threshold.
Thank you. So I just wanted to add as well, in addition to Reverend Harrison, I really do agree with him that I think a lot of the issue is down here, because I don't know how we got to 5 years and we haven't been monitoring that. And I think there was 0 that were eligible to sit in 5 years. So I guess I'm like, how? That's not a building level issue. So I do want to make sure that whatever they're stating the needs are, that we're addressing that. I know the block scheduling has been a huge issue. I've heard from the very beginning that it's not even mathematically possible to obtain the 1,500 hours. It hasn't been from the very beginning. So what have we been doing all this time? That's for downtown to know that. So I just wanted to state that and make sure that we're doing what we need to do down here for it to be successful.
I do want to, and I'm not a master at the scheduling person, but I know we did change the schedule to allow for more hours, so we went to dailies with students so that they had more opportunities to build up those hours. We submit all the hours to the state, so mathematically, with the submissions that we have, we exceed the availability and time that kids can earn. What gets difficult is if they get behind just 1 year, it gets so hard. It's like getting that, it's like having a bad semester where your GPA tanks and then trying to get it caught back up. So if a kid has a bad year, even if they're very serious, it's hard for them to get that junior and senior year back, because now you've got twice the hours to make up, or more hours, and a lot of hours that you have to do. So the idea of having the 0.5 instructor was to have that extended time, so an extended day, that was getting our sophomores off on the right foot and keeping our little 15-year-olds thinking straight and keeping them going, and then get that ground footing really strong, because if I head into my junior year and I'm already behind, it was hard for those kids to catch up to. So and then being able to have that person stay and work with them and keep those hours continuing. If they are falling behind, they miss a couple days, they can make up some, and it's not the end of the world for them.
Right. At the end of the day, it is up to the student. However, we have to make sure we're setting it up for them to be successful. And we shouldn't go a whole 5 years and then suddenly we learn that we haven't had anyone eligible in 5 years. And we've touched this program several times in conversations on our agendas. So I'm thinking everything was on track. So it's just disappointing to get to this point here. So I hope we're listening closely to what the needs are, the ask. I would definitely support it. Did you have a comment?
I think I know. Where did the 500 hours come from? Is that the state saying that? Okay. So we will have to adjust our schedules or some kind of way so those kids can get them. If the state's saying that, then we have no choice. But if we're saying that, then we can make adjustments. So I agree with Principal Denson, and maybe we need to try to figure out if we can get another person there to get those hours so those kids can be able to graduate with the credentials they need. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Dr. Jackson.
Yes. Thank you, Principal Denson, for even the team for thinking innovatively. Like, if we could just do a part-time person to close this gap, that would be helpful. And I think having a part-time person in the building will be more effective for our learners and the demographic we serve. Because when you get to talk about coming on the summer, and even though you have to do what you have to do, but if I'm already working, if I have other things going on, it's more than me just not showing up. Right. I have other type of responsibilities. And when you really look at all of the factors, just like with grading, there's a lot of factors that plays a role. We don't offer night school, so this to me seems like the most reasonable. I'm already in the building. Right. It rolls right over in my school day. It makes sense. And this is 5 years later, and the building is thinking of this. But something stood out to me, because building leadership, and I like to say the in-the-weeds people, the people that's in the building, see in real time how stuff plays out and the reality of the matter. And when building leadership came and positioned it that, listen, a child would have to have perfect attendance, missing no days, plus do 50 hours, outside hours, just to get 449 hours. Yes, and that's what, so Marcy is saying that's not correct. So what I want Marcy to do, because this is where I was getting to, if building leadership's posture is one thing, and then the person who's over programming is saying something different, then I need some clarity to why Miss Ebright, I need what you are saying, that no, it is feasible if they do, because when you start talking, it was like a lot of different touch points, and I'm just thinking, but that's all over. That's like my colleague said, that's moving the goalpost. Like that's even more challenging when I think about this specific program. When I've seen us cater to other clusters in their program, how we can make it as easy and as comfortable for them to participate. And I'm just saying, I just want the same fidelity when we're looking at programs from this level, from the leaders, from the directors, and those for all programming. If you could just expand upon how you're saying it's still feasible without perfect attendance, because we know things without perfect attendance.
Yeah, so we have about 1,171 hours total available. So it'd be 90% attendance or better. So as long as they're attending 90% of the time. So they had to get 1,000 over the, we have about 1,117 total hours available. Over the 2 school years, correct.
Okay.
Right. And that's why we put in the compulsory summer, because that's going to see them through and set them up into their junior year, because it's a 2-year program correctly. And then what we would hope for is that if they could then test and be licensed hairstylists by the end of their junior year, heading into their senior year doing capstones and work experiences, if we kept with hair design. And we were talking, and I don't know if it was Ms. Edwards that brought it up, but said, we're going to talk with the kids and see how this looks for them, like what design looks best for them as they're doing this. Because I don't even know. The kids might say, I like this trajectory better because I could be in employment my senior year and doing work. So, those hours always carry through to other schools. A lot of cosmetologists will go and get another license, their barbering certificate, their nail tech, their whatever they add on, like continuing education. So it might be talking with the students in the program to see how they want to continue to.
Oh, what you talking about, the hairstylist thing?
The hair design.
Hair design.
Yeah. Which is the bulk of it's the 1,000 of the original 15.
Because they get the 1,000, they just short the 500.
So
because in that part.
So cause was 1,500 hours.
Right. A hairstyle is 1,000.
Yeah. Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So for 500, I'm just gonna make this plain as I can. For 500 hours that I can get for free for going to school, instead of paying Regency and all these other hair schools like 30 grand to get something that I could have got as a child in a pathway at my school. Let me tell you something. I don't want to pay for no add-on. If I can get it done in school, let's make it happen while I'm in school. So that cavalier, I don't like that. Like, well, they can go on after. Yeah, but it's a cost for that.
I understand
and
that. I would like to ask the kids if they want to be in internships their senior year. I don't know that. It's not making it less for them.
I can tell you right now they don't want to pay, because I wouldn't want to pay. As I finish, Member Harrison. So I can tell you now they don't want to pay, because I won't want to pay. So I'm going to speak for a portion of that demographic, which I represent. They don't want to pay. But the one thing that I saw when you were presenting for CTE was about the follow-up, the continued follow-up to make sure students are on track for graduation, about that being done with fidelity as far as monitoring each year. So scholars are exceeding threshold for progress monitoring each year of school. Schools have done an excellent job for monitoring, communicating, and remediation strategies, like in that part, intervention assistant teams, academy teams, and counseling teams. It seems like this same strategy, because it's a great strategy for success, that same fidelity with pathways, with this COS pathway. If all these efforts also were put into pathways, then possibly this rethinking that we're doing now after state intervention, prevention would have been better than us trying to come with a cure. I think it's good information, and I know you shared this before about this 1,100 hours, the last go around with this, about these hours that's around it they can get, and we're here the second time because they didn't get them for whatever reason. And so this fidelity piece about monitoring, as far as the type of meetings that are had, the expectations how that's communicated with parents. I understand there's some building level thing, but I can't help but put it on this district as well. So I just want to put that there. And I think I hear the solution about the 0.5, the part-time person, that if we're trying to get a quick solution now, I want you to know I hear and I recognize that. And that's something that, of course, I would support. I mean, I can say that I would support that. That's a no-brainer. But I'm just thinking, how do we get to that we don't have to, because I don't like the look. It's a lot of great things, and I know book has been my cluster multiple times, and it irritates me personally as an individual when we have to come, because I feel it's, I don't like how it shows the school, because it's great things that's happening, and so when a program has to go under this, or it seems like something lost, or like it was a failure in some type of way on the state, how it reflects on the school. And so that's why I want to make sure that we do what we're supposed to do to support all our schools from this level, that we're lifting them up so we don't have these type of if that makes sense. Because I know great things is happening at 1040, as they call it. I've seen it. I've been in there. I've seen what's going on. And I know great work is happening. I've been in hair shows. The cosmetology teacher is going above and beyond to give these experiential experience for the students. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And I'm going to stop talking, but it's just, this is my community. And it's real personal because it's a game changer from hairstylist to cosmetologist. I'm talking about esthetician, nails. I can do whatever, and I can choose my sweet spot. That's a different. And for 500 hours, I'm going to make that happen instead of I'm graduating and then life happens. And I may not do those extra, and then plus I got to get student loans for that. And with the way government is happening, as far as will you be able to get student loans for cosmetology? So if we're going to offer it and boast of it, then let's make sure we make it happen and that we're checking it. Because what you expect, you inspect. So if my expectation is we're graduating cosmetologists, then from this level, because I expect it, I'm constantly inspecting it to make sure it's on track to be successful. And so I support the 0.5 without question. It's a no-brainer for me. I support the totality of what's happening at Bookto. I just want to make sure that the measures that's in place, that it's consistent, that we're not getting backdoor, like stuff catching off guard. And it's like, well, we already been making this, we've been saying this, and now we hit with this hammer.
And
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Member Harrison.
So I do not support the 0.5 at all. And the reason is they may need more than a 0.5. And I remember at Garfield, they had 2 teachers in there. They had 2 instructors in there, and they offset. And so if we're talking about college and career, if we're talking about something as serious as college and career, I think this district can't afford 2 instructors in there. And the ideal that we would even ask the kids, are they okay with 1,000 hours, does not set well with me. The standard is the standard. Okay, the 15 hours is how the program was set up. And that's what we need to do, because it's not just about what you can do, it's about if you own this business, now you can do everything in the business. And so when we're looking at how do we make this work, I think it is how do we graduate students that are able to go into a full service and own a salon, not just work in a salon, but own a salon. And if 0.5 is going to just get us there, then let's make sure that we build in something for an instructor maybe not being able to teach for a couple of months. Let's make sure we're building in something. What is the attendance rate for Bookto's building? What is the?
I believe we're at 70 to 80% of our attendance, and we did make growth on our chronic absenteeism rate last year, so we did
But it wasn't
improve.
90%.
It was not 90%.
Okay,
no.
so let's not look at 90% and say to kids that they have to make 90%, because we're not there with the building. And if we're not there with the building, then we can't expect to be there with just one program. I promise you that it's frustrating, because when we're talking about equity, when we're talking about support systems, when we're talking about monitoring, inspecting, you know, if I played football and I came in as a freshman, they know how much I was bench pressing when I was a freshman. They know how much I was bench pressing as a sophomore. They know how much I was bench pressing as a junior. And when a college coach comes in and asks, he's going to say, what was the growth? So we can do individual education plans for every student that's in cosmetology. And they should know as a junior, hey, listen, you got these many hours. Okay, you messed up here, okay, and you're going to have to buckle down here, because you not only got to do these hours, but you got to make up. And so I should be able to come in and say how many hours that child needs. And so I think when we're talking about college and career, I think we're talking about some unconventional ideals, some teaching strategies and methods. And if we saying that this is what we want at Bookto, then let's nourish that baby. Let's grow. Okay, well, what do we need? We may not need all of these supports this year, but we need them next year. And so I think it's important to come back to the board and say, hey, or come to the superintendent, and the superintendent come to the board and say, hey, you know, we have some problems over here, and I think that if we did this, then we can. we can mitigate those problems. But moving the goalpost is not an option for me. 1,000 hours going down to, that's not an option, because we set it up for 1,500 hour. We set it up that these kids were going to graduate with that, and so we need to find out how do we fulfill our promise and not move the goalpost.
Right. So the first thing would be to make sure that we get lots of kids that graduate ready to and license this year, so that we can get the state to get the full licensing program back in place. That's goal one out the door, without a doubt. And continue, I think having at least a 0.5 would be helpful. I know I came into this position 3 years ago, and as I got to see and meet all the teachers in the pathways and really understand the intricacies, especially in some of our pathways that have a lot of requirements like this. And to me, cause is unique and little flower in all of them, because it is an entire school within a school within a school. It is as if you were to go to any fully licensed cosmetology program in the city and you've got one staff member. And I thought about that. If I was an adult wanting to go get my cosmetology license and walked into a school and saw that they had one instructor, I might be like, I'm going to go someplace that has more people. Yeah. And even though there's a whole team, they got counselors and principals, they got everybody else wrapping around the kids, of course, and the other teachers. But it's a lot of complicated steps to get the kids through, and you got kids in all different levels and different theories and different stages that they're doing. So I knew right away after the first year that we thought that we needed more help there, and to make sure that the kids had the resources that they need to get that program going. So I think that if we can get the license back, I think having a 0.5 teacher will get us, we have a plan in place for that teacher to be as effective as possible. We're looking to offer, if beyond the school day, nail tech too. So kids who may not even be in cause, who just want to come in and learn the nail tech piece, could come and do that as an after-school opportunity with that teacher and leverage that time. So even if they're in hair design right now and still want to do nail tech, it'll be an option that they could take advantage of as in getting those hours to your question. And so in the meantime, let's get some kids across the stage. We will be watching them super closely this year. Deanna is ready like a hawk to do that.
So just to build on that just a little bit, we do have a meeting scheduled with our students tomorrow after school and their parents. So they'll be coming in. We have a contract ready for them as well. We did not use the 90% attendance. We used the 85% attendance as the stipulation, with the students understanding if they're not meeting that threshold, that they will be given their second choice, which we have 6 more pathways in the building. And then what another stipulation we could also do for next year is make it the 3 hours in the day during the school, because a lot of these are not within our control. Having the students work on their work-based learning hours at home isn't something we can monitor. Having students be able to dedicate time in the summer to come in when they could be working, that also isn't under our control. But if we can utilize that block scheduling and give them a block and a half, with that second half of that block being able to do the work-based learning hours, then that, in essence, gives us back the 3 hours that we did have at the program success, even when it was at Garfield.
So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
So is that something that could potentially be coming before us soon, Superintendent? So for this,
Okay. Yes, the block and a half would be a scheduling thing for next year.
right.
so the 0.5 though is for this school
Correct.
year?
Yes.
So we could expect to be seeing that in a future agenda, potentially.
Yeah. So,
Did you have a
Yeah.
question, Reverend Harrison?
how hard is it to get a 0.5 and not a full? I mean,
I know one right now.
okay.
She's a
well, good.
long-term sub in the building, and she just got her cosmetology license.
Great.
She's waiting to get the approval.
Okay. So I would just, encourage us not to do the minimum, but because I know there's some supports that need to get us back to where we are. So my idea would not be to do enough to get someone passed, but make sure that we have supports in place that we're not back here again. And that would, I would say the ask need to be big enough that we know that this is going to work.
Thank you, Reverend Harrison.
Absolutely.
And so on this particular topic, it sounds like we have some potential resolution. I'm happy to hear that. But we're not done about book, though. So you guys know how I feel about the Teacher Academy, and that's for a future meeting.
All right.
And so are there any other questions at all or comments? I want to thank the leadership from Bookto from coming to share and offering solution to an issue in your building.
Absolutely. And Deanna, she's my person if I forgot something. So is there something else that
Is there something you'd like to share?
No?
So
Okay.
that works.
And
All right.
I think it's Mr. Castello is our CTE specialist, so his school is local, so he worked with all the pathway teachers at local for curricular side of the house, and then partner side of the house. So they did the referral services there.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Dr. Jackson?
Yes, I just want to give a shout out to Ms. Edwards, who's done phenomenal things with job fairs and everything, exposure to our students with our partners. Phenomenal work is being done at Bookto through that pathway. So thank you for that. Just wanted to recognize that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody. We have gone well beyond our time frame, but I thank everyone for their patience. And we actually didn't even get through the whole agenda. So with your consent, we'll move those things to the future IP committee next month. So if there's no other comments, if all minds are clear, we will adjourn at this time. Thank you so much, everyone.